We had a good laugh reminiscing on Friday, and amongst our conversations, because we had been talking about the airport and all this kind of stuff and whether or not jumbos got in, or transatlantic flights. And I was away, I was living in Canada at the time, and with people on the air saying that jumbos did come to Cork. There were chartered jumbos that came in from New York back in the 80s, 88, maybe 89. Actually, it was 88. I think it might have been in the summer of 88. And at the weekend then, Tom McCarthy in New York got in touch with me and said, no, buddy of yours, Barry Toomey, was the man who organised them back in the 80s, back in 88. And actually, Barry joins me by phone, and I do know Barry. I know him well because when we would do programmes out of New York for St. Patrick's Day, and I did 3 or 4 live broadcasts, he set up all of the flights. He did all of the logistics involving getting us out there, getting the gear out there. And at one stage, we brought a whole lot of listeners out to America as well. Anyway, Barry joins me by phone. Barry, good morning.
Good morning, Neil. How are you?
I'm well. So actually, that was July 88, was it?
That was July of 1988, 30-something years ago, Neil, when I was a young boy. Yeah.
So you decided to charter a jumbo. To do what? Bring Cork people home for holidays, was it?
Well, we had done just about every other airport in Ireland. We had done the usual Dublin, Shannon, Belfast, and we brought a couple into Knock and even 2 into Tralee. So there was another Cork travel agent in New York with me, and we decided, well, why not give Cork a shot? So we advertised the flight to Cork, and unfortunately we didn't fill it up to capacity, so we loaded it up with Shannon passengers, but the Shannon people never knew they were going to stop in Cork. We didn't tell them that.
With all of those flights, because you say you did the other airports as well, were you testing the water maybe for a regular flight or something?
Well, we were into charters in those days. I don't think we could have managed a daily service. That was a bit too much, too far back in the 80s. But when we used to bring the flight into Cork, we had to what you call double hop it, because you couldn't take off from Cork with a full passenger load and a full fuel load. So you had to stop somewhere on the way back. In fact, funny enough, on the way over, I was sitting next to a friend of mine, Paddy McCarthy, and we kind of nodded off. And about 3 hours later, we heard the pilot saying, "We're landing now." And we said, "God, that's the quickest transatlantic flight ever." And we realised that he didn't have enough gas to get us to Cork, so he swung into Gander.
In Newfoundland?
In Newfoundland. So the poor old Shannon passengers, first of all, they didn't know they were going to Cork, but they sure as hell didn't know they were going to Gander.
So he had to fill up with fuel in Newfoundland to get him across the Atlantic.
We had to fill up there, and 3 hours later we landed in Cork.
A little birdie says some fella came on the plane looking for your credit card. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. But we did land in Cork about 3 hours later, and we got a fantastic reception. The Lord Mayor was there, the Barrack Street Band. My dear old father was there, and there was a huge amount of people in the terminal building, and I was waving up at them as if I was Nixon arriving in China. And
well, you're kind of thinking, "Wow, this is a great reception."
I said, unbelievable. There were thousands there, and after I was acting like a fool, waving up at them, and they were probably saying, "Who's that idiot on the runway?" The girl from Marinta came over and tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, "Barry, I wouldn't get carried away." She said, "It's a historic occasion, all right." And I said, I just can't believe the amount of people who've come out to see me. And she said, "Michael Jackson is arriving in half an hour." So that took the wind out of my sails.
So Michael Jackson was flying in half an hour later with Bubbles the monkey.
That's it. But we had the last laugh on him, because myself and another friend, we had imported a stretch Cadillac from the States. We thought we were going to make millions doing weddings and things like that. And it was up in Dublin, and we had it shipped down to Cork with the driver, and it was parked up in the parking lot. So I said to the driver, go up and swing that car down in front of the terminal. And we had an American flag and everything. And when Jackson came out, he thought it was for him. He had to go off into the minibus with the monkey.
Did he make a go for the stretch limo? He did?
Oh, he did, yeah, but we got ahead of him.
My God. They were back in the day. That was the start of it all, because certainly through the noughties, there was all sorts of planes being chartered, usually for rugby matches or soccer matches. Wasn't that the case? All those days are well gone now, though, aren't they?
Yeah. The following year, we brought 3 more in, but at this time, fortunately, we had enough petrol to get to Cork non-stop. But, it was great fun.
Oh, man, it must have been some crack on that flight with the Cork load of people coming back. Some sing-song, I'd say.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't the height of luxury we get these days, because myself and Paddy were up in the front row, and they had the beer cans in a little plastic container. So every time the girl walked down the middle of the plane to help somebody, myself and Paddy would reach out and grab a can.
Oh my God, straight to confession for that. I love the Jackson story, in fairness. The Barrack Street Band for Michael Jackson, not you. Are you retired now, Barry?
Yeah, when the internet came in, we kind of specialised in Ireland, and we did a lot of business with Aer Lingus and Continental in those days. But and people would call you, and you established a clientele over the years.
Travel agents would get your flight tickets back then for you.
Yeah. But once the internet came in, it changed all that, and as many travel agents all over the world saw. So the writing was on the wall. I packed up my bag and headed back to Cork.
Imagine if you were a tour operator or a travel agent now. My God, the stress and anxiety levels would be through the roof.
Absolutely. So, happy to be back. I get back and forth. In fact, I was back there about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and out of Dublin to New York on an Aer Lingus flight, and I think there were 25 people on the 350-seater plane.
Crikey, that's amazing.
And on the way back, there was about the same. So,
Jenny, Mac.
with the, you had to have a PNR test done before you got on in New York, and they looked for it, of course, when you arrived, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But it does put, and you can only have it done 2 days in advance, and when you arrive in Ireland, it has to be done 3 days prior, at least. So it's cutting it very fine.
Do you think that there ever will be an appetite, or indeed enough customers out of Cork to the likes of New York or Boston or San Francisco? Do you ever think that would happen?
Well, I'd like to see it. I mean, I travelled on Norwegian Air a couple of years ago when they had the service from Cork to Providence, Boston, and unfortunately Shannon got the service from Shannon to upstate New York.
Yeah.
And it would have been wonderful if we had that service, because I think the service from Cork with a smaller aircraft like a 737, which they were operating, could have a future.
Maybe once a week or something?
That would create problems, I think, with crews. But I think for starting off at 3-4 flights a week and try and build it up.
Yeah. Who knows?
But, in this environment, it's hard to know.
Speaking of environments, you're enjoying West Cork these days, are you?
I'm down in Schull, Neil. Yeah. I don't get down there too often. In fact, my last trip was on the bus to see a doctor down there. I think it was me, the driver. I called him the state chauffeur because it was me and the driver. That was it. So,
my God. Listen, it's great to catch up. Look after yourself. Thanks for sharing some of the reminiscences about the 1980s, particularly the Jackson story. I love it. Mind yourself, Barry. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Great Barry Toomey. So that was the reason behind the flight. That's the backstory to it. Thanks to everybody for getting involved in that one.
Neil Prendeville, the voice of Cork. Weekdays 9 to 12. Cork's Red FM.